Well, that could have went better. I just attempted to weigh the car on my basically poor man's corner weights, which does work. These 300 kilo each scales, I got 4 of them. So you put one under each wheel, drop the car down onto it, there's your corner weights, and obviously you add it together and there's your total weight. You know, it's not as good as having proper corner weights, but corner weights cost a hell of a lot of money. Unfortunately, you really need 2 people to do it, because you really want to have a jack on either end of the car or have it on the lift and lower it onto them at the same time, because otherwise, obviously when you jack one end or the other, the car tries to move one way or the other. But I thought, fuck it, I'm impatient, so I'm gonna be super careful. And I did it, and it was on, and it was showing, oh, I didn't get that long to look, but it was showing round about 210 kilos per corner. So that was saying this thing's weighing 800 and high 800s. And if that's true, that's great. That's with half a tank of fuel as well. I don't know if it really is. I'm gonna have to take it to a weigh bridge now, because soon after that, the one on that corner just fucking collapsed. Well, it sort of bananaed, and that made it move forward a bit. So no, sorry, it made it move back, which made it slip off the front two, which seems to have left that one undamaged, but has broke the feet clean off that one, which is that's how that weighs them. You know, these things here are the scales, these pressure things, and it's probably fixable. But how accurate it's going to be anymore, because these are normally screwed in, but it is snapped off the plastic completely. So I don't know. If it was to be believed, before it all fucking collapsed, then it was saying there or thereabouts, you know, within about 10 kilos or so. It wasn't badly, you know, unequal, which was quite surprising. I think it was like 2.5, 220. But fuck it, let's say 220 on each corner. If that's correct, that's 880, which is quite good. Under 9 would be great. These cars, I think, weigh 965 standard. I'm gonna have to take it to a proper weigh bridge. So now we've got dyno figures. It made 270 horsepower and 300 pound-foot on Badger 5's dyno at 15 psi. So literally not even barely trying at that level, but you know, that's what it's mapped at due to the actuator issue I had. I could go back and make more. I'm getting to the feeling it's not worth it. There is a little bit more in it, but if I want more, I want a lot more. We know roughly what it weighs because I've just weighed it, and even if we're taking the worst numbers I was seeing, it's 880 kilos. Might be a bit less, but whatever. That works out to be about 305 bhp per ton. And I've got performance times now, because I tested it 60 to 100 and 100 to 200 kilometers an hour. So 60 to 100 in miles per hour for us English and Americans, and 100 to 200 for the rest of the world in kilometers. And yeah, the times were 4.71 60 to 100. It's all on the Dragy. I'll put it all on screen as well in a second. And 10.8 100 to 200. And funnily enough, that tallies up very closely to pretty much everything around about 300 bhp per ton. It's give and take, because it's going to depend on cars gearing and that kind of shit, because that, you know, all makes a difference when you're talking about a tenth. But if you look at, say, a 997 GT3 RS, that is about 305 horsepower per ton. According to the Timing Evo magazine did with it, it's a tiny bit slower, 60 to 100, but the 100 to 200 time is pretty much exactly what I got. Official figures by Porsche claim the 60 to 100 is pretty much what I got. So believe whatever, but it's much of a muchness. It's within the tenths, you know, it's next to nothing. If you was having a race, you would literally be sitting side by side. Same with a Ferrari California, actually, California T. They're like 550 horsepower, 1750 kilos. And yeah, 10.8, 100 to 200, somewhere in the high fours, 60 to 100. So yeah, and it's the same all across the board. And you look at other stuff, you know, stuff we see on the streets normally, like a brand new Golf R or a A45 AMG or stuff like that. They are literally a couple of seconds slower, not like in the temps like this. So yeah, the performance wise, this is, as it is, in a very lowly state of tune and hardly any money spent. It's the same straight line performance as, not supercars, but the very high end. Wow, is a California T a supercar? I don't bloody know. It's a GT car really, because a lot of the real powerful Aston Martins are the same. The ones, you know, they got like 600 horsepower, but they weigh near enough 2 ton. They're about 300 per ton. And again, you look at the acceleration figures on them, and it's very, very similar again. But yeah, noticeably faster than things like M3 and C63 AMG figures, and you know, the usual stuff, and up there with the stuff a touch faster, which is pretty good for a little MR2. But anyone can make anything fast if you spend enough money. The whole reasoning for this, the whole reason it's good in my opinion, and the only reason I've done it, is because how much I've spent or not spent. Because I've been doing the sums, and I can run you through it if you want. I'll break it down part by part in a second, but I'll tell you from the off, this has cost me, including buying the car and you know, all the engine stuff I've done. I'm not going to count all the other bits. The other bits, tyres, anti-roll bars, the suspension mods, the hard top, all of that. That lot, it cost me 1,800 quid, which is fuck all still. But I'm not counting that with the engine. We're talking pure performance. If we're talking purely what I did to fit the engine and the mods that's on it, and buying the car, it cost me 2,720 quid from not owning this to being this performance. So 300 horsepower per ton for under £3,000. Where are you going to get that from elsewhere? Nowhere, I think. Ignoring what I paid for the car, say if you already owned one, it cost me 2,320, because I only paid 400 quid for this car. It was had a blown head gasket and just was sitting for years, and I offered him 400 quid and he said yes. I mean, it's not, that is cheap, but I have bought 3 others all for 650 quid that all ran and drove. They wasn't blown up. So, you know, it's cheap, but it's not like incredible. In America or somewhere it would be, but in this country, at the moment at least, these things are fairly worthless. So let's run you through what everything cost. So for this used but known good 1.8T, it's just a completely standard 1.8T out of a Skoda Octavia VRS. You know, that's the coil packs it came with, that's the loom it came with, everything. There's, you know, no modifications to it. God knows how many miles, but I'm guessing a lot. But I knew it was a good runner. I bought the engine, including ECU, loom, standard inlet exhaust manifolds, standard turbo, starter motor, alternator and throttle pedal. That lot cost me 300 quid, which is nothing, but it's kind of what it costs. I mean, all the other engines over there cost me anywhere between 0 and 250 quid. You know, these things don't cost much, and unless people are trying to rip you off. Clutch and flywheel were pattern part, not OEM, but a single mash jobby. It was made by Blueprint, if I remember rightly. Cost me £220 all in. The gearbox is a standard 6-speed box out of a something, I think it was a Seat Leon or something. It cost me 50 quid. Engine mounts, it cost me 0, but that's because I swapped them for stuff with Thomas. If you was buying them, it's like engine and gearbox mount and gear linkage. If you was buying them, you'd pay 450 quid, but I paid nothing because I traded some other stuff I had for it, basically. So yeah, the turbo cost me £300. It's just a whole set HX27 off Compressor Racing. In all honesty, the 270 this is making at the moment, you could make it on a standard a KO4 easily, or even the smaller KO3S. You'd probably just about make it with a good tune, or maybe a happy dyno. So you don't even really need that turbo, not for the level I'm on now, not for this acceleration. I could go more on this turbo, but this kind of performance, 300 per ton, you can do on the standard turbo. The exhaust manifold, honest to God, including delivery from Germany, and it was brand new. It's a cast T2 manifold of quite a nice design. Cost me £65. The exhaust system, I mean, it's not very long anyway, but it was all second-hand bits I had lying around, apart from the only bit I bought was the flexi section, which cost me 35 quid. Air filter, because I didn't have one. A lot of people's got an air filter lying around, so you might not have to buy that, but it cost me £50, so big deal. Fuel pump. The fuel pump, the standard fuel pump on these is meant to be proven fine at like way beyond this, like 350 odd horsepower, but the way I saw it, A, I'm going to go beyond that before too long, and B, I don't know what condition that fuel pump's in. It could do 350 in great condition. This thing's some ancient old piece of shit, you know, it's 22 years old or whatever it is. How was I to know how good it was? So it's like stuff that, when you can buy a fuel pump for £100, like a Bro 340 per hour, you know, serious fuel pump, and it's a straight swap on these, it's £100. Fuel injectors, they are, I think, 600 and something cc. They're Ford GT500 injectors, funnily enough, and they were like, I think, £200. Inlet manifold, I have changed to the BAM inlet manifold from the normal one, purely to put the throttle there instead of there. That was like 50 quid. They're all over eBay, they're not a big deal. What else we got? Oh, charge cooler. I put it in the car. Nobody else does. Most people put the charge coolers there, but it's better in the car really, because anything away from an engine. But it depends how crazy you want to be. Not, you know, you never see in car apart from drag cars, and they're always in the engine bay, standard or not, but do what you want. Either way, it was 140 quid and it works brilliant. I never see inlet temps over, well, I've never seen 40 degrees yet. I barely see 30 most of the time, you know, and that's on like a full pull to the rev limiter. The radiator for the charge cooler cost me, at the front, if you go back previously, you see it's big as well. You could definitely save money there, because I bought a big charge cooler radiator, alloy one, fancy thing, 120 quid. You could run a OEM motorbike radiator or anything really, and spend probably 80 quid less than that. I'm doing it value for money, but I weren't totally penny pinching. I've got an alloy rad. The standard rads are brilliant. The standard rads, if they work great, as in if they're in good condition, they work brilliant. Mine was fucked. I mean, you know, you'd never need to change a standard rad even at fairly big power if it's in good condition, but nearly all the fins on mine it was just corroded, so there was nothing left. But I bought a alloy rad which was like double capacity off eBay, brand new, and it's like £80, so it's not a big hardship even if you do change it. What else? I got my oil catch tank set up. That is literally some scrap metal that I welded together. You know, it's some aluminium pipe. it is nothing, but it works, because, well, it works better than most of these aftermarket ones you'll spend a lot of money on. All the pipes and hoses are literally shit I had lying around, so it cost me £0 again. In reality, if you had to buy them, what do you reckon that is? You probably 150 quid's worth of hoses, really. If you got them silicone, you get them probably less than that. but either way I paid zero because I've just had them lying around. The electric water pump setup, as cool as it is, you don't need it for this performance. I've got it for other reasons and for long-term reasons. Most people would just rather run the standard water pump, and in that case, wow, the £300 that cost me, you would be saving as well. And the last thing, you know, from an engine point of view of buying stuff, was the mapping. That was £400. You could probably, if you was just sticking to standard injectors, standard turbo, and all that, which should get you 260, 270 if you're lucky, so very similar to what I've got, if not the same. You can probably do that off like an off-the-shelf chip. That's like a stage 2 map. So, you know, potentially, you can't be sure, because some of these maps could be right monkey rubbish, but you see on eBay these deimmobilized 180 ECUs complete with a stage 2 map for like 150 quid. So if you was really penny pinching, I'd rather pay for a good map myself, especially somebody like Badger 5 who's, you know, proven good. But you don't have to, you know, the option's there. Apart from that, there's nothing to it, because the looms are modified standard, the ECUs are standard, all the sensors and everything's standard. Well, to be fair, I've spent about £100 on brand new sensors. All the other ones were fine, but when the sensors, genuine Bosch ones, are so cheap for these cars, it's like, fuck it, you may as well spend the money. I've got a lightweight battery there. It cost me nothing because I already owned it. It was in a Corolla for about 5 years, and now it's in this. You could run a normal battery, you don't have to run one of them, but even these are quite cheap these days. You get a good lightweight lithium battery for less than £200. That race cat, which is on the back of mine, again, you don't need it, but I'm running it, and that I already owned it, so I've not counted it to my cost, but they're only 150 quid, I think. Literally fuck all. So yeah, genuinely 300 per ton for £3,000 easily. You could probably scrimp and save even more if you wanted to. Well, definitely could, and you can certainly take a lot more weight out of one of these. I mean, even the hardtop don't save any weight over the soft top. These are not light, they're as heavy as the soft top. High-end sports car performance for £3,000, and it is a seriously good handling mid-engined rear-wheel drive car. It's not a fucking just some kind of straight line drag car. It's far from it. That's not really what it's good at. So yeah, 300 per ton, 3,000 quid. Good times. I'm now building up a serious engine for this, because the way I drive this, and it's a complete unknown, I'm going to blow it up one of these days. So I'm building up the engine with, you know, rods and exhaust valves and, you know, turbo setup. That'll probably make this like about 500 horsepower, and in that case it'd be at least 550 per ton, which is hypercar territory. I think Bugatti Veyron's 550 per ton, and even then that new engine is going to add another £2,000 to the cost. I would be inclined to say it might be like 550 per ton for 5,500 quid. So yeah, this is why I tune cars, and this is why I don't care what anyone says. This is by far the best value, proven, not just fucking fanboys saying so. Best value engine conversion for one of these. Yes, K-Series are awesome engines, but yes, they cost a hell of a lot more, and they're not wildly better. Like I've said before, one of these have been proven 180 engines to make 1,500 on the stock block. Obviously not stock internals, not stock anything, and tuned to the fucking bollocks on methanol, and they've been proven to make 1,500 horsepower. What's the most a stock block K-Series makes? Oh, well, fucking surprised. About 1,500 horsepower. You know, these aren't cool, down with the kids, JDM type whatever, like a fucking K-Series, but they ain't got the price tag either. And K-Series rev to the moon, but even these with decent cams, double valve springs and exhaust valves, they rev to 8,500. So yeah, you're giving up a little bit of RPM over a K series, but well, a tuned K series, but so fucking what? I know for a fact I've seen fully built, you know, big power ones of these making 700 plus that are revving to 10 grand, which is K series RPM. You know, big time K series RPM, not your average fucking K series. You know, they're revving to 8.5 tops. I'm not trying to be biased. You can see I'm giving reasons for they're barely opinions, because I'm just stating you facts. I'm giving you numbers, I'm giving you figures. But in my opinion, this is by far the best option for these, if you want to go fast for these. In all honesty, while I've got the V6 in that one, I think in reality, even for ridiculous power like the V6 one's gonna be, a 180 is a better bet, and I've kind of making a mistake doing the V6. I mean, you know, there's even in big heavy Audi A4s, I've seen Audi A4s running over 1,000 horsepower and over 150 mile an hour in a quarter mile with 180 power, 300 horsepower per ton for £3,000. And I honestly reckon you could get it to 550 horsepower per ton for £5,500. But that will be in future videos. And to be honest, numbers are numbers, you know. It's like, so fucking what? It's like the driving enjoyment is the key, and this thing drives so good, and it's got so many like just constant crazy noises. That's what makes it enjoyable to drive, and that's what makes it worth the money. So now I will do some more in-car caning about footage so you can see what I mean, because it's just fucking awesome.